Yoga, the union of mind, body, and spirit. Yoga is the journey of the self, through the self, to the self. From the Bhagavad Gita. Yoga is a mirror to look at ourselves from within. Yoga takes you into the present moment. In truth, yoga doesn't take time, it gives time. Welcome all our viewers from Hong Kong and across the world to India by the Bay, our yoga episode. I have three wonderful panelists with me, Dovas, Devika Virmani and Nivedita Joshi. And we're going to explore what yoga meant to each one of them and continues to be part of their life journey, enriching them along the way. I'm going to start with you, George. George, you've had a very interesting career trajectory, starting as a business analyst, traveling the world, didn't find that fulfilling, joined the fitness industry. You've been a fitness instructor for almost 15, 16 years. And that actually, got you to a healthier lifestyle. You found passion and joy that was missing earlier till you discovered yoga and you realized that you'd just been scratching the surface. And therein began your journey towards what you call true health, the bliss and joy of connecting with yoga, the union of mind, body, and spirit. So, George, I want to ask you that when you embraced yoga after a very long career in fitness, what was the fundamental difference in you that you noticed, and what changed within you?
Thank you, Puneeta. I have to say, when I first encountered yoga, one of the most profound experiences was when the teacher said, move your arms as you inhale up. Take your arms as you exhale down. And that connection of using the breath with movement was very powerful. Prior to then, in the fitness game, I felt healthy. I felt more energetic, but it was only at that moment when I encountered yoga that things shifted in me. I was less angry, less irritable. I was seeing myself becoming a better person. And although I'm still scratching the surface of this subject, what I realized through yoga is health is multifaceted. And it's more than just being able to run fast or to pick up heavy weights. Health involves so many spheres. It involves the physical, it involves the organic body, the physiological. How do we digest our food? How do we sleep? It involves our mental processes, not just whether we're happy or sad, but how alert can we be when we need to be alert? When we read something, how much do we retain that information? This is all mental health. There are so many spheres to that. And then there are deeper spheres to health. It was said by my teacher just recently that why we cannot meditate is when our moral and ethical health is not set right. So if we're not morally and ethically healthy, our mind is not quiet. And if our mind is not quiet, it's like there is something inside gnawing at us. And so for me, this journey has been to realize that health is not a simple equation, and it involves many facets of the human being. And it's been fascinating. And I think that is what has helped me to stay on the path of yoga. It hasn't been an easy path. Along the way, you have to make some decisions, tough decisions, I would say, because to be healthy means to give up, perhaps, I'll say it that way, to give up a lot of what you might otherwise want to do, how you might want to live your life. The pull of the, human desires are so strong that they may pull you away from health. And so
Right.
yoga gives you that vision of, if you want to be healthy, you have to make these decisions in your life.
If I'm not being too personal, could I ask you to share one of the toughest decisions you had to take?
There have been a few along the way, but I think when I gave up being a business analyst to go into the fitness industry, that was a big decision. In hindsight, not such a big decision, but at that moment, it was a big decision. I think, yes, I'll choose that example. But there are more. But I think also what I'm trying to say is those decisions are there even on a daily basis, on a hourly basis, as to, when someone invites you out and it's a little, perhaps, going to make your day too busy. It's
Right.
being able to have that discipline to have enough of everything, but not too much.
Right. Wonderful. Getting the balance back. Okay. And
Yes.
what were you able to shift a lot of your old clientele from the fitness industry, because you had a great reputation there too, shift them into the practice of yoga? Were you able to do that?
It's funny you asked that, because when I was working in the fitness industry in Hong Kong, and I had built quite a good reputation, and as others would describe, I had a big fan base. And so when I left the fitness industry to go solely into the teaching of yoga, there were so many people that said, there are going to be so many people following you. And the reality was that not many came from fitness to yoga. And I think that speaks to the fact that there's a time in people's life, there's a stage that people may have to go through to recognize that there is more to health. And it doesn't happen to everyone, and it doesn't happen so easily for everyone. And so, yes, I wasn't able, as you said, to convert people that were in the fitness world into yoga.
That's beautifully put, George. Thank you so much. I'm going to now introduce Devika Virmani, who is also actually formerly from the corporate world of finance and banking. And as all corporate, I would say, demands, was burning the candle at both ends, a hectic work life. At the age of 40, she was at crossroads. And though she was working out, Devika got a bad knee that got hurt while running. And as she kept trying to cope with personal and professional, I would say, cacophony around her, she began searching for something more meaningful, more fulfilling. And that was an introduction to yoga. As she dived deeper, she realized that the mind-body connection she was experiencing was taking her towards a space of clarity, honesty, truth, and eventually gave up her job and enrolled for teacher training at the Iyengar Yoga Center in Hong Kong. And today she's a certified yoga teacher. Though when Devika is not practicing or teaching yoga, she runs her own search firm catering to the financial industry. So Devika, I want to specifically focus on how yoga helped you heal the mental trauma you were going through because of the sudden changes in your life, and how did it enrich your life and take you beyond the earlier framework that you were used to?
Thank you for the introduction, Puneeta. Yoga was, like every typical child growing up in India, yoga gets introduced at a very young age. So yoga has been in my life for the last 20 years at least. Initially, it was my 7 a.m. workout. So 3 to 4 times a week, I would do my workout, and then work started 9 to 6. I was introduced to Iyengar yoga a little bit later in my life when, as you said, I hurt my knee from running, and I got cured of my knee condition. But the turning point came when I was about 40, and I did go through a change in my personal life. I went through a divorce. It was a rough time, but I was supported very strongly by family, by friends. I had a job that I loved very much. So life kind of moved seamlessly on. But I came to a point when I think I just got accustomed to having company all the time. I got used to that noise. And I felt I was no longer comfortable with myself. I was not comfortable in my own company. So I searched. I searched for that anchor, something that could be with me at all times. And I found that in yoga, when I was practicing, I felt fully supported. I felt confident. I felt hugely empowered. And that feeling was intoxicating. And so I realized that the journey that yoga was taking me down was more true, was more real, just was more honest. So I submerged myself. I decided to pursue the study and practice of yoga further. In 2015, I enrolled in a program to train to become a teacher in anger yoga. Soon after that, in 2017, I quit my corporate job, and that was just the most obvious thing to do at that time. And when I started to practice yoga, I started to understand a little bit. I still feel I'm at a very early stage of understanding, but I started to understand how by releasing my hip, my knee benefited. How by rolling my shoulders back, I can release a neck pain. How by stretching the legs, the lower back benefits. So these connections anatomically start to make sense. At the next level, when I'm inverted or when I'm in my Shirshasana, Sarvangasana, how the breath starts to become quiet and how I can go into that state when I can start to become quiet. And I did. There were moments when the mind is hugely upset, there's anxiety, there's disturbance. The practice helped me overcome those stages. So they say, like Patanjali has said, those vrittis. So the practice helped me understand and overcome those vrittis. So the fact that abhyas and vairagya do help, control those vrittis, stop becoming intellectual pursuit for me. I could feel that. I started to feel that in my own practice. And the fact that yoga is mind, body, breath connection, it was no longer reading that in books anymore.
But
I could sense that.
Yeah. So you're talking about the mind calming, coming to a point of stillness, and from there actually also going into an expanse, becoming more expansive. And that would have impacted so many aspects of your life, being expansive. So did it change the way you related to people? Did it change your relationships? Did it change the way you related to yourself?
I think that's a really good question, Puneeta. And you're right. This understanding these connections helped me understand myself in essence. And I think life does that to us, right? Life changes us. Depending on the situations we face, depending on the people we meet, we change. But at the core, we are that one person. And when we start to understand, or at least when I started to understand these connections, I became more in touch with myself. Mm-hmm. I realized who I really am. And that does definitely impact the people you surround yourself with. So it impacted, who I chose to surround myself with. There are difficult decisions, like you asked, George. There are people who will probably not want to walk that path with you. And yoga gives you that strength to say, okay, that's fine. There are others who fall, who walk that path with you together. So yes, it is. It really is coming to be in touch with yourself.
So the Devika who started, or who was at crossroads at the age of 40, was a very different person now when you're looking back. Right?
Yes, I think that person had got lost somewhere. So yes, I feel like I found myself. And I give credit to yoga for that.
How beautiful. Thank you, Devika. Thank you. And talking about strength, who better to personify that But Nivedita Joshi, I think most of us know about Nivedita and the connection with yoga. I mean, she was stricken with, I would say, a slip disc and cervical spondylosis at the age of 15, and she was an invalid for over 12 painful years. And Nivedita's recovery is a story that legends are made of, I would say. I mean, after losing all hope in life, I mean, destiny led her to Yoga Acharya BKS Iyengar, and his yoga institute in Pune in 96. And initially going there for a month in a wheelchair, she stayed for a year and walked out unaided. So yoga gave her back her life, and Nivedita's life became yoga. And now, almost 24 years later, Nivedita was at the brink of another battle, a life-threatening one this time. The dreaded pandemic COVID hit her entire family in its first wave, the Delta wave. And Nivedita was in coma for 15 years in the ICU for 15 days, forgive me, 15 days in the ICU, and then shifted to a ward for 40 days when most of her fellow patients were dying around her. And with 80% of her lungs being affected, Nivedita was fighting for her life. Her 9-month twins were at home, waiting for her to return. And this is where Nivedita acknowledges the strength of mind that the practice built in her. Nivedita, let us hear this in your own words. Did you not feel any fear at all? And what did you attribute to this grace that you call your strength? Can we hear this?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for introducing me. My life has been like this. This is not the first time. Before that, I lost my eyesight for almost 2 years. And that's how I started teaching visually impaired when I got my eyes back. So my life has a very interesting chapter. So this time when I was fighting for my life, what I found was very interesting, that people were dying in the ICU because they were scared. I could survive because not even a single iota I thought I would die. What my mind was telling me, fight it out. So this spirit of, fighting it out, whatever comes in front of you, comes from the Patanjali Yoga Sutra, Heyam Dukkham Anagatam. Whatever is going to happen can be postponed, or if you have got it, you can fight it out if you're practicing yoga. And, everybody was astonished to see that I have 2 small kids only with maids. The entire family was in the hospital. The reason was practice. I was always a very, very strong-headed person, but strong-minded person. I could see that the mind has changed. This is the best thing which one can see when you practice yoga. So I had only one mission in my life for that time, that just fight it out. It was not easy at all because you are sleeping, eating, staying with dead bodies. And you are completely disconnected from the outside world because you're fully infested with tubes here and there, and you can't even talk, you can't use your phone. But mentally, you're absolutely alive and alert. So interestingly, when the doctors told my father, who was another ward, that pray for her because we can't say whether she will be coming back to the life or not. For 4 days, I was in coma. And the same doctors told me that, well, ma'am, we knew that you will survive. And I said, how do you know that? When everyone was signing off for me. They said, because in the coma, when we asked you certain questions, you were so damn clear about the answers and your condition that we were amazed. So I think, again, this state of mind, which we keep it in pranayama, you are not in a sleepy or dreamy state. Your mind is alert, yet it is at peace. Your mind is absorbing everything, but yet it is not giving you any kind of botheration. So I think it was that. And so, I felt that this was the best thing God gave me as a broken spine to continue with the yoga. Otherwise, this corona battle would have not been possible.
Yeah, and Nivedita, I think this is so significant because COVID has devastated the entire world, and there is so much of anxiety and fear, which I think affects your immunity immediately.
Yeah, interesting part was when I was fighting, I will get some of the other minute in a day when my tubes were removed and I can use my phone, and my father will send me a message who's already fighting. saying, do exactly what your guru taught. Okay, so here comes the physiotherapist and tells me, okay, now we will start our breathing exercise. Okay, so what is the breathing exercise? They will give you certain movements and then a spirometer. And you have to blow the balls, and there were 3 balls, and you have to pull the ball to the height. When I did first, I said, oh, not in this life. It was so painful that I thought that my lungs will collapse. But being a very, good student and a good patient, I will try every time and I collapse. That's when I realized that this is something somewhere wrong. It is not possible. Any patient cannot do lungs are 80% collapse, and you are giving some kind of a workout which is impossible. Then somebody will come and because there were so many patients, and they will do a very strong kind of a fist attack on your back, on both the lungs from the back, so that there is a circulation. And I thought to myself, this is ridiculous. When we can move our body and we can use that, why somebody has to come and do, kind of a fist massage, which is very painful. And that's when I called my guru's son, Panger, and I said, sir, actually, he called me and I couldn't pick up the phone because they were very concerned hearing my news. So I said, sir, I'm in the ICU. What they are teaching me, I feel is ridiculous because my lungs are going to collapse. What is your suggestion? So he said, why did you forget what Guruji taught us and how I taught you in the class? So, it's a very good concept where a very logical concept. It says that, if you don't have space, how will you allow any guest to stay? Similarly, in your lungs, if your lungs are completely packed and then you are asked to take a strong inhalation, it will burst your alveoli. In fact, later when I studied in Google about the different case histories, because I was planning my own courses for the students, they said because it's such a new disease, and the doctors, the bookish knowledge, they only knew the deep inhalation. Many of the patients died because the alveoli collapsed, they ruptured. And I was in that stage. So he said, Nivedita, no, first evacuate. Create the space in your lungs. And it is in pranayama, it is said, and we do practice this, that you only breathe with lungs as a concept from the medical side. You breathe from individual cell. They said, don't worry. Your oxygen level will come back to normal, not because of the lungs, because they're already packed. You will create the space in the lungs, but you will create the entire breathing system in your entire body, which is organic inhalation, exhalation. And that's when I started first exhaling, evacuating, so that the lungs are at peace. Because they're stuffed and you're calling more of the patient, more of the guests to come in. There is no seat. So first, I went back to my practices for the evacuation mode to create space more, not only in the lungs, but the organic body. And when there was a plenty of space to take the inhalation breath, then the inhalation was not painful at all. So when the physiotherapists were taking my examination, I'll try and show my failure. The moment they'll go away, I'll go down prone and I'll go with what Guruji and Prashantji has taught me. And then I'll write a message to him that, sir, why don't you make me your subject? Because I'm now the real example. Then I wrote the entire thing with my broken thumb to my entire family who was struggling and send them a WhatsApp saying, do this and see the result.
Right. And I'm going to request you, to do a little demo of this, which we will.
Yes, by all means. I would love to help people if they can, do the same thing.
And just a little bit on the practice, Nivedita ji. I mean, as I was mentioning earlier, you have quite a reputation of discipline and making sure that your students do respect yoga with hard work and integrity, So the importance of the practice and of actually surrendering to it. And that's a question I'm going to ask each one of them. But, if you could just tell us.
See, my great fortune or my problem is that I was taught by the master for 22.5 years. I stayed practically with Mr. Iyer. So once in a program, in a very nice way, Shujat Khan said, people were walking out of auditorium without even paying the respect because he's still playing. And he stopped the concert and said, my problem is that I've been taught with the masters and I cannot bring my work down. You may leave because that's what your culture is, but I cannot leave my culture to create the music in a certain way and then take it to the finality. I have the similar issue. I've taught by Mr. Iyer. My father is extraordinarily disciplined person, so I cannot keep things especially in yoga, when the yoga starts with discipline. Hatha Yoga Anushasanam, the first sutra. So you cannot teach, especially the kind of people I teach, critically injured, double spinal injury, brain surgery, arm surgery. There you cannot allow them to do whatever you want to do. So that's why the discipline is utmost important. Without discipline, you cannot achieve, especially in the critical health condition, you have to do uninterruptedly, continuous, respectful practice. And that's what I first tell them many days, months, and then I become a hard task master saying, okay, now decide. Because if you don't want to use medicine, you don't want to use injections, you don't want to use any modalities, how do you want to correct yourself? With your own practice. So the practice is the utmost thing which Guruji taught us to all of us. And said that if you want to be a practitioner of yoga, then you have to practice. The mool mantra is the change what George says, felt in her body, or Devika has felt in her body, or I have seen in myself, is not one day. George, how many years you've been in yoga?
I've been in yoga for 23 years.
Yeah, so I'm little senior to George, 27 years, Devika, little junior. But whatever it is, you can say it's more than decade.
Right.
So it's a disciplined practice, nothing else.
Absolutely.
And that's what make a real change. You feel that it's a magic. Everybody says that, oh, yoga did a magic in your life. Actually, not. Once Guruji's son described my case, and I was very happy to hear that. He said, no, yoga didn't do any magic.
Right.
You have used a tool which is known as yoga. Guruji's knowledge and his work was profound, and his hard work to a student. And then the student did a similar hard work against the work of Guru. So yoga can be used as a tool, but your hard work, Guru's hard work, that's what fructifies in your life.
Absolutely. George, I want to ask you to comment a little bit on the practice and is it easy to get your students to be able to understand that it's actually the same place they're entering? Because it's leading you to a higher level of consciousness if you are open to it. It could remain, yeah. I'm handing it over to you. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to say that this is probably one of my biggest challenges as a teacher, because when students come to yoga, they come for a variety of reasons. Maybe their knee hurts and they come to yoga because they've heard that yoga can help, and it will help. Or maybe they come because they're feeling anxious and they've heard that yoga will help with anxiety, and it will help.
Yes.
And yet, as a teacher, or when I'm teaching, I have this deep hope that each of these students, whether they're there to cure their knee, bad back, or their anxiety, that they see that there is more to yoga than only that. And it's a challenge. It really is a challenge to help people to see and appreciate yoga for the multifaceted, profound subject that it is. So this challenges me every day.
Thank you, George.
And I'm glad we're sharing in this forum with the hope that people explore yoga, because it really is not what people think it is. It was Vyasa, I believe, that said, yoga can only be understood through yoga. So yes, read about it, listen to people that have been practicing, but the only way to really understand it is to experience it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Devika, your thoughts on this, on your students, on the practice, on the ability to surrender?
No, I think like what George said, you're right. It is most, and in my case too, I came to Iyengar Yoga at least with a bad knee. So most people have come in with some condition. But while teaching, I have noticed how people come, but then they stay. At the initial level, it's physical. So when the student does his or her first headstand, it's it's absolutely exhilarating. And then they want to come back, and then they want to do a full arm balance, and then they do that, and then there's next. And in yoga, there's the path never closes. So that kind of at that level keeps the student sort of motivated, enthused. I think it's not everyone who will get to that step, and all of us are, I think, at different journeys in our life. Yoga, like Prashantji has said, Nivedita talked about Prashantji has said it's not a once in a lifetime journey, but the fact that a student has been introduced to yoga in this life, next life, or maybe 5 lives later, they will find yoga to be that next step, which is more than the asana practice. But yes, it's I teach because I benefited so much. So if I can give a little bit of that, is hugely rewarding.
Thank you. I said we will have a little section where y'all will be sharing your tips with us. But I want to just come towards the wrap up to say that, yoga, which is the union of mind, body, and spirit. I mean, it's a science, it's an art, it's a philosophy that opens the doors to a higher level of consciousness. And it enables you to move towards that point of stillness where the mind becomes as pervasive as consciousness itself. So I just want you all to just a lasting comment on what yoga is for you. Just a single sentence with which we can wrap up. Each one of y'all. We'll start with you, George, Devika, and Nivedita ji. Just a sentence as to what yoga is for you today.
Yoga is like your computer's operating system. And so when you practice yoga, it opens up all the many features and functions of this marvel that the human body is and that life is, and gives you access to this.
Wow. And helps you to tap into the universal hardware, the frame, right? Which is okay. Lovely.
Yes, the mainframe.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, George. Devika?
For me, yoga is a way of life. And for those of you listening, if you are at that cusp of, what should I do next? Yoga or practicing asanas is not to become a yogi. It's not to go up to the mountains and become an ascetic. Practice of yoga makes you a better sports person, a better business person, a better entrepreneur, a better employee, a better son, daughter, or a parent. So it helps you, or like it helped me become a better version of yourself. That's how I would describe it.
Wonderful. A better human being overall. Lovely. Nivedita ji?
Well, for sure, yoga is a way of life, but it is a way of life when one leads. It gives you the best, healthiest life for yourself, a society which is healthy, a nation which is healthy, a state of mind which is harmonious, calm, quiet, and makes you a real good, place within yourself and outside yourself, which is humanic space to say. The person and the society and the country who are practicing yoga has the least violence. So it is a way of life which touches everyone's life. You are practicing, your family is practicing, because you are so quiet, calm, your family is healthy. And if your family is healthy, your society is healthy. If your society is healthy, your nation is healthy. So if you see everywhere in India and you compare with the Western world where the kids are taking up the Kalashnikov and killing the people, that rate is very, very less. So it is a way of life, no doubt about it, but a way of life which teaches you and takes you towards the higher consciousness, which you don't even feel, but you get it. You get these changes without even getting these big words, but you definitely move towards that.
Thank you very much. I'm going to wrap up here. It's been such an enriching conversation and so very relevant and timely at the moment, because we really, really need, I'm going to say, tools like yoga, but yoga is way beyond just a tool. It really is. It is a way of life. Thank you. And I'm sure we've inspired many, many of our viewers.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much to Puneeta and India by the Bay for
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing us to share.
Thank you.
So as I said to you that I'm going to explain you how I progressed when I was fighting for my life in COVID and then coming out of the hospital. I had a long chat with my Guru's son and he explained very beautifully that until and unless you have a space, no guest can come in. So first evacuate completely, and not only evacuate from the lungs but evacuate from organic body. So there is a breathing, the scientific community will say, oh, breathing is happening in the lungs, but in the field of yoga, we inhale, exhale from every pore of the body. So evacuate entire organic body, muscular body, skeletal muscular body, so that you have a plenty of space and then you breathe in. But here what you do is that you lie down prone. Now pronation is scientifically proven fact that it gives you a bigger surface area on the back of the lung, and they utilize maximum, so your SpO2 level increases. Now when you are lying down in pronation, your forehead is resting, your back lobe of the brain is resting on the forehead, you are extremely restful state mentally. So if your mind is relaxed, your body automatically goes into that relaxed mode and breathing becomes very soft. When you are struggling with the COVID or something like COVID where your lungs are getting choked, the breathing is very heavy. You have to pull the breath. Here it is very calming because entire back surface, which has kidneys here, there are two lungs, then part of the liver, then spleen, all are here in the visceral area. They are all breathing and going towards the Mother Earth. If you see philosophically, the child is most stressful when you are in the chest of your mother. Here entire chest is towards the Mother Earth. So the back brain is resting over the front lobe of the brain, which is the thinking brain, and the front lobe of the brain is again on the lap of the Mother Earth. So the entire body gets amazing relaxation, including the spine, including the legs. So if your limbs are relaxed, so your heart is also very much at peace. So this was the pose which I used to do to begin my practice.
A lot of people see yoga as a workout, but it's more than a workout. And we often say yoga is a work-in. And what we're going to do is show you some postures that bring the mind to a quiet state. And when the mind is quiet, it is then that you can really observe your breath and get the most out of the breathing practices. This pose is called Supta Baddha Konasana. Have a bolster behind you or some folded blankets or pillows. Then you bend your legs, soles of the feet together, knees to the side. With your hands on the floor, lie back, but look how the buttocks roll towards the feet. It lengthens your lower back. You support your head and neck with a blanket or another pillow, the arms resting on the floor to the side. There's more to this pose than meets the eye. Do you notice how, with the knees to the side, the pelvis is broad? And the pelvis is involved in breathing. If you look closely, you can see the abdomen moving up and down. Also notice how the arms resting to the side are not against the side chest. And it's in the side chest that our ribs spread. And when the ribs spread in the side chest, the breathing improves. One can have the eyes closed here. One can watch the breath. Stay in this pose for 3 to 6 minutes, and you'll see that your breathing slows down, and any fatigue, any tiredness goes away. When you're done with this pose, to come out, bring your knees up and turn to the side.
The next pose is called Setubandha Sarvang Asana. Have 2 bolsters and a blanket. In place of the bolsters, you can have pillows, but they must be firm pillows. Have the bolsters lined up like you see behind you. Start by sitting on the bolster with legs straight, and then bend the legs, lie back on the bolster, and then slide down. Notice how initially the shoulders are not touching the blanket, and then carefully slide down making sure the shoulder blades and the shoulders hug the edge of the bolster. Come to a point when the shoulders and the head are at the same level, and then one leg at a time, straighten the legs. Notice how the arms are rolled out. The legs can be on the floor. If the lower back does not like this position, you can have some height for the legs. Notice again, like you saw in Supta Baddha Konasana, the height of the side trunk, the width of the side chest. And notice how the bolsters are supporting the diaphragm. The diaphragm muscles aid in our breathing. So with the diaphragm muscles supported and rested, the breathing automatically is restful and starts to calm down. This pose, Setubandha Sarvang Asana, has been called a boon for mankind. It helps in healing and energizing the body. The eyes can be closed and you could again be here for a minimum of 3 minutes and up to 8 to 10 minutes. To come out of the pose, bend your legs one at a time and slide away from the bolster. So have the hands on the bolster and push the bolsters away from you. Bring the pelvis down to the floor, straighten the legs, be here briefly for a minute or so, and then bending the legs, turn to your right, press the left hand down, and leading with the chest, come to a seated position.
These poses not only relax you physically, but they change your heart rate, they change your breathing. And it is known that when your heart rate and breathing changes, the waves of the brain change. You go from that state of alertness and thinking and rationalizing to that state of observing, being the observer. And it is when you're in this state and you're observing your breath that the body transforms, it heals itself.
India by the Bay is back with 10 special events to mark 10 years of Asia Society's inception in its beautiful heritage site. Every month we will be bringing to you music, theatre, dance, literature, film and so much more. A platform for collaboration and excellence which is in many ways epitomized by the wonderful Asia Society in Hong Kong. Join us every month online to view our digital series and celebrate 10 years of Asia Society, Hong Kong, along with India by the Bay.
This year, Asia Society Hong Kong Center celebrates its 10th anniversary in this beautiful site. We are so grateful to Sanjoy, Lakshmi, and the entire team from Timor for collaborating with Asia Society Hong Kong to be able to bring some of the best arts and cultural events from India to Hong Kong. We look forward to continued collaborations in the year ahead.